Hello and welcome back. This is part 3 of Etude number 18 in B-flat major for the 2022 5A-6A all-region etudes. We're going to be looking today at the middle section of this etude. The middle section of this etude starts after rest in measure 17, which is convenient for us for today. A lot of it is soft. Overall, this section has a long crescendo in it. Now, let's get an idea how this middle section of the etude should sound. Now let's remind ourselves of the vocabulary we're using for this section. We're going to be in the key of B-flat throughout, and the range of this section is from low D up to high D. So let's briefly go over the B-flat scale all the way up to high D. So this section has a 2-octave range with a lot of variation in articulation. There's only one altissimo note, and it's not extremely high. It's D6, the high D. Now, we're going to be tonguing that note, so we'll use the standard fingering. Half hole, 2 and 3 in the left hand, the middle finger of the right hand, and the low C key. Since you're tonguing that note, use all of those fingers. The third part of this etude has one arpeggio, B-flat major. Let's look at it. It's near the very end of the section before the breath mark. It starts on low D, and it ascends in pieces up to the high B-flat. Because of the speed you'll be playing with eventually, I encourage you to use forked F here. It's extremely important that you play from the beginning with the correct articulation. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult to break bad habits later. Most of this section of the etude is written in straight 16th notes, so no counting issues there. But at measures 17 and 19, we have a dotted quarter note tied to a 16th note. 3.5 counts. Let's look at the fundamental for practice and performance. To begin with, let's tongue the dotted quarter note 3 times legato. There's the dotted quarter note. It's tied to beat 4, so we'll now tongue it 4 times. You'll notice we've created now a rhythm 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and practice measure 17 that way. Now measure 19 the same way. Once you're comfortable with the 3.5 counts, take the extra articulation out. And you'll notice measures 17 and 19 not only have the same rhythm, but they're constructed melodically in a similar way. Before you begin your practice on this section of the etude, do a warm-up that consists of air exercises, long tones, and the B-flat scale. Then go to work on the etude using a metronome. One of the essential parts of the technique for this section of the etude is the use of forked F. You can see on the music, I've included places where forked F is suggested because of the speed. Normally, in slow music or even medium tempo music, I'll use forked F if at all possible. But the speed of this one makes the forked F a much more attractive alternative. Now let's look at the technique for the awkward measures 21 and 22. You can see on the music example, I've circled certain notes. I call them my goalpost notes because the skeleton of those two measures is a descending line. Notice G, G flat, F, F flat, E flat, D, a chromatic scale. So first, I practiced the chromatic scale. In measure 22, the goalposts are a descending B-flat major scale. Slowly practice the goalposts in rhythm. Only when you feel completely comfortable, add one extra note at a time. What I'm not able to show you on this video are the many hours I spent practicing that very idea, adding one note at a time over and over again until I could play smoothly with one airstream and a still face. You'll be spending quite a bit of time on this section. Now let's look at the technique in measures 23 and 24, the extended B-flat major arpeggio. Practice this slower with the metronome so that you can incorporate both the forked F and the articulation exactly as marked. Please notice that in the music, I have marked a slight retard. You will be taking the breath as marked, and it will sound a bit more musical if you put a slight retard in before the breath. Let's take one final look at measure 24. Because there's a breath mark there, we want to prepare the listener for the breath. So we will include both a slight retard at the end and a diminuendo. Now let's discuss the sequencing of your technique practicing. You should be playing one measure at a time with the metronome always, and play one measure plus a note so you don't get used to looking at the bar line as a place to stop. Here's an example. Once you feel comfortable with several measures of that technique, start to layer them together in 2 measure segments and then more. Work slowly at first. Make sure that you're comfortable with the fingers before you work towards larger groups. When talking about phrasing in this section of the etude, note that almost entirely it is one long crescendo. Think of it in that way, and then practice the last 2 measures as a little bit of a diminuendo to prepare for the breath. The oboist must daily work on tone quality. Start by playing the first note of each measure, with and without a metronome, focusing on airstream and vibrato. When you think about tone quality as a long tone with vibrato, then technique is merely moving the fingers while that happens. I want to take this moment to remind you, journal your progress and set daily and weekly and longer-term goals. Your journal serves not only as a reflection of your progress, but a way to document the progress you made as a musician in working towards the all-region auditions. This is the end of part 3 for Etude number 18. If I can be of assistance to you, please contact me at the email or phone number given. Good luck.